The pressure is building on the US and Israel to end the Gaza war. Foreign Minister Winston Peters is on his way to New York for what commentators say will be a defining week for the United Nations. Joining me now is NZ Herald Deputy Political Editor Adam Pearce. Hey Adam, thanks very much for joining us this morning. So what are we anticipating from Peters' New York trip?
Hey, Michael. Well, of course, we've heard from the likes of the UK, Australia, Canada, recognising Palestine as a state, and we will have Winston Peters, obviously in New York for the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA, making a speech articulating New Zealand's position on whether we will recognise Palestine as a state or not. Now, Cabinet has made an in-principle decision. That's what they've called it last week. However, they haven't released that publicly. Winston Peters wanting to, as he often says, keep his counsel and wanting to engage with stakeholders, with overseas counterparts, get a real feeling from other world leaders, communicate it back to the government if necessary, but then eventually, and there's been calls, for New Zealand to state its position, draw a line in the sand, but Winston Peters will make that decision, will make that call, will announce the government's position in a speech this week in New York.
Yeah, and Adam, just in terms of the politics of this, what do you think the optics are like, considering that, we have had some criticism for us moving pretty slowly compared to the likes of Australia?
Yeah, exactly. The politics are interesting, and the government will want to make sure that it walks a fine line with this. We saw last week an RNZ Reid research poll saying that about 40% of Kiwis support recognising Palestine, about 20% don't, and about 30% don't know one way or t'other. So there is an appetite to do it, so the government will be recognising that. On the other hand, there is the relationship with the US to consider. Now, obviously, the US is a big supporter of Israel, and Foreign Minister Winston Peters has taken this approach in the past, whereby wanting to step through decisions very carefully. We saw with the tariff regime earlier in the year, wanting to make sure that New Zealand doesn't cause too many waves and gets all the information possible before making the decision in order to not upset that relationship. So I think that's the fine line that they will be looking to walk, and I think you've seen that with the reasoning behind not announcing Cabinet's decision and waiting until being over in New York to make that call.
Yeah, very good analysis. So, just on another topic here, Simeon Brown has announced this $100 million investment into our hospitals. What's your assessment of this move, Adam?
Oh, look, you've heard it on your show this morning from the unions, and the line from Labor is that it's tinkering around the edges. Now, we saw that it was about $100 million across the hospital system. There's also $20 million for emergency departments. So $120 million, you'd think that's quite a lot. But when you put it in the context of, tens of billions of dollars across a 3-4 year cycle for the health system, it doesn't go as far as people might think. And, there will be some merit, there will be some improvements made through this. But when you look at some of the projects that the government is talking about, some of it's hot water, improving air conditioning, these are things that people just expect as a standard of our healthcare when we go into hospitals. So, I think the criticism or the commentary that it's business as usual, I think a lot of that is pretty founded. The money has already been set aside in the budget, and it's not new money. So I think the government, and you've seen from their messaging as well, that it's small scale projects. They're not looking to big it up too much. I think the timeline is the interesting thing. They've said that they want to get these projects through in the next 9 to 12 months. So that's clearly getting things ready for next winter.
Yeah, I was surprised, like you, at some of the investment. Shoring up electricity in important labs at Auckland Hospital because of power blackouts. It's pretty incredible, really, and it does sound like maintenance. To what extent do you think that the Minister Simeon Brown or the government has got out and made this announcement, and issued this PR just ahead of the doctors' strike to try and get ahead of that, to say that, hey, look, we're doing something?
Well, exactly right. They want to have something that they can say to the public when we have the doctors and the nurses saying that the government isn't pouring enough into the hospitals. They aren't pouring enough into the health system. Obviously, you look at something like $100 million into hospitals, people look at that and they say, well, that's great. That should make a difference. But as we've noted, and as has been, as has been the commentary around this, you can see that a lot of it, or at least some of it, is business as usual.
And Adam, it sounds like we're going to get an announcement on energy this week. Is that right?
Yeah, it'll either be this week or the start of next week, where the Prime Minister doing his morning media rounds, he was on your show earlier this morning saying that we're going to have some kind of energy announcement. Energy Minister Simon Watts will have something to say. Now, that's been a big space of issue for the government. Everyone will know how power prices are pinching people at the moment. So we'll be looking to see where the government lands on it. Obviously, we've had the likes of New Zealand Minister Shane Jones, who's a bit of a wannabe energy minister at the moment, agitating in this space, calling for the gentailers to be split up. Now, that would be a pretty bold step for the government. The Prime Minister's comments this morning did reference the gentailers and how the prices that they passed on to their retail arms versus other retail companies was an issue. So I'd expect to see some moves in that space.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. Well, Adam Pearce, thank you very much for your analysis this morning on Herald Now. That's Adam Pearce, New Zealand Herald Deputy Political Editor. Coming up, Garth Bray with the day.